The rooftop terrace went silent. Then she whispered, "They're taking my company." The first thing out of place wasn't the skyline or the crowded rooftop pool. It was Claire Morgan's phone vibrating against the side table while 3 financial blogs pushed the same fabricated headline about her company. The white sheer fabric of a resort scarf lifted in the rooftop breeze beside her chair, catching the sunlight like a warning flag. Around her, guests laughed over iced drinks, towels snapped in the wind, and the infinity pool kept throwing bright pieces of the city back at the glass railing. Claire did not move to answer the phone. She stood beside the lounge area in a crisp white linen blouse under a light blazer, the collar slightly wrinkled from a morning spent avoiding cameras. A legal folder sat under one arm. Her other hand rested flat on the phone screen, not silencing it, just keeping it from sliding off the table. That was not how powerful guests behaved when nothing was wrong. At a 5-star property, wealthy people complained loudly when the wrong champagne flute appeared on a tray. They demanded privacy, upgrades, late checkouts, and apologies printed on heavy stationery. They did not stare at a vibrating phone as if the glass rectangle had become a live grenade. I checked the rooftop manifest on my tablet. Cabana 4 was supposed to be empty until 3. The system had double-booked the private VIP tier and placed Claire on the public deck by mistake. Her logistics team had booked the penthouse under an NDA 3 days earlier. The reservation notes were precise, discreet, and expensive. No media access, no lobby photographs, no direct calls to the room. All arrivals through elevator bank C. And now she was standing in plain sight while her name burned across financial blogs. You secure the perimeter, you don't crowd the guest. It was the first rule I taught new managers at the Aurelia Grand, and the only rule I still trusted after years of watching money turn people careless. Discretion was not a luxury amenity. It was a promise. I stayed where I was for another 5 seconds, scanning the sightlines from the rooftop bar, the cabana attendants, the elevator doors, and the row of guests pretending not to look. No camera lenses yet, no press badge, no obvious threat, just a CEO under public attack and an operations director with a failed seating chart. Claire looked up before I reached her. She had felt the assessment. People like her always did. "Is management here because I'm in the wrong chair?" she asked, voice even but thin at the edges, "or because you already know about the article?" I stopped a polite distance from the side table. Both would be accurate. "Ms. Morgan, the cabana assignment is our mistake. The article is not." Her eyes flicked to my tablet. "Then you know I may be bad for business by dinner." "This property values discretion," I said, "and you have a reservation." That earned me the smallest change in her expression. Not a smile, not trust, just the first fraction of surprise. The phone vibrated again beneath her palm. The legal folder shifted under her arm. I lowered my voice. "I can arrange a private exit through the service elevators, or I can keep you on property and move you out of public view. Your choice." Most guests in crisis reached for command. Claire reached for permission she did not expect to receive. She looked past me toward the elevator doors, then toward the skyline, where sunlight cut the glass towers into hard silver shapes. "If I leave," she said, "they will say I ran. Then you stay, but not here." The white sheer scarf lifted again, snapping once against the chair in the breeze. She picked it up, folded it without looking at it, and laid it over the legal folder. The movement was precise, but her thumbnail pressed into the paper until the edge bent. "They have screenshots," she said, "fabricated emails, altered timestamps. My former business partner is claiming I manipulated our supply chain to force a buyout. The board called an emergency session for Friday morning. That gave the rumor a spine. Former partner, board pressure, market panic, screenshots built to look objective, a corporate coup dressed as concern. I tapped my radio. Control, this is Reed. Lockout elevator bank C with VIP override. Route security to the rooftop east corridor. Quiet pattern only." A click answered in my earpiece. Claire watched me, not relaxing, but recalculating. "You do this for every guest?" "I do this when the perimeter fails." She picked up her phone. 3 missed calls from her general counsel, 2 from a board member, 1 from a number with no name. Her thumb hovered over the screen, then stopped. "Do you need to answer?" I asked. "I need a room where no one can hear me answer." "Then follow me." I did not offer my arm. I did not touch her back. I walked half a pace ahead, close enough to clear her path, far enough not to make a public drama out of it. Guests kept talking. A server stepped aside before I asked. A man in sunglasses lifted his phone too slowly, and I turned my head just enough for him to understand that the lobby camera above the bar had a better angle on him than he had on Claire. He lowered it. By the time we reached elevator bank C, security had already placed a velvet rope across the corridor with a "closed for maintenance" sign. That sign had saved more reputations than most lawyers I knew. Inside the elevator, Claire stood with the legal folder held against her ribs. The city dropped away behind the glass wall for 10 floors. Neither of us spoke. The only sound was the muted hum of cables and the faint buzz of her phone. "I don't usually trust hotels," she said finally. "Most people don't trust buildings until something goes wrong." She looked at me. "And you?" "I trust locks, logs, trained staff, and doors that close when they're supposed to." The corner of her mouth shifted. "That sounds lonely." "It sounds measurable." The elevator opened on the penthouse level. The suite was cold, bright, and too large for one person under siege. Floor-to-ceiling windows faced the city. A marble island divided the kitchenette from a sunken living room. The study had a separate phone line, a printer, and a door thick enough to make the hallway disappear when closed. I walked through the space first, checking balcony locks, service access, the secondary corridor, and the internal phone panel. Claire set her folder on the island and finally answered the call from her general counsel. I stood near the study door, facing away, close enough to be useful and far enough not to hear more than fragments: injunction, board packet, former partner, proxy, Friday, no. Not resignation, no. I'm not signing that. Her voice never rose, but the hand holding the phone trembled once. The white sheer scarf lay beside the folder, moving whenever the air conditioning shifted. It caught the vent's draft and lifted by one corner, then settled again. When she ended the call, she remained still for a full breath. "I should go downstairs," she said. "I should stand in the lobby and look unafraid." "If you go down without a statement, they control the narrative. Take the afternoon. Review the damage. Let your counsel certify what can be used." "Why are you giving me crisis advice?" "My job is operations." I said, "A hotel is just 1,000 small crises pretending to be a peaceful room." That didn't answer the question. No, it did not. I walked to the thermostat and lowered the temperature 2 degrees. I had noticed the flush creeping up her neck and the way she kept pressing the folder against herself as if it might hold her upright. I did not mention either thing. "I am doing it because throwing a guest into the lobby to protect optics would be easy." I said, "Easy is not the same as correct." She looked at the thermostat, then back at me. "You noticed I was warm." I noticed the room wasn't helping. A small silence opened between us. Not intimate, not yet. Functional, clean. A space where she could decide what to do next. "I need secure Wi-Fi, a printer that doesn't log to the public business center, and a landline my board can call without going through the switchboard. You'll have them in 20 minutes. And I need coffee. That I can do in 5. Black," she said, "1 ice cube. I burn my tongue when I'm angry." It was the first human thing she had said, and it landed harder than it should have. I wrote it down on the room service pad because writing things down kept me from noticing other things. "Black coffee, 1 ice cube." "And Mr. Reed?" I paused at the door. "If anyone asks, I'm not hiding." "No," I said, "you're preparing." For the next 48 hours, the Aurelia Grand stopped being a hotel and became a controlled environment. I moved Claire from the penthouse into a secondary secure suite on the 10th floor after 2 financial reporters managed to get photographs of the private elevator lobby from the building across the street. The move was written in the system as a maintenance transfer. Housekeeping received printed routing, not digital notes. The minibar staff was replaced by a supervisor I trusted. Elevator Bank C required a physical override card carried by me, my assistant manager, and no one else. I did not make speeches about it. I did not tell Claire how much trouble I was avoiding. I just made sure her path stayed quiet. On Wednesday evening, I brought the day's physical mail in a tray from the kitchen to the 10th floor suite. Black coffee, 1 ice cube, a covered plate of grilled chicken, a bowl of rice, and 2 packets of plain crackers because crisis clients either forgot to eat or convinced themselves coffee counted. Claire sat on the floor surrounded by printed ledgers, supplier manifests, board bylaws, and server log exports from her legal team. Her blazer was folded over the chair. She wore a modest white blouse with the sleeves pushed up, professional even in defeat, or what she believed was about to become defeat. The room smelled of coffee, printer paper, and warm electronics. "They altered the timestamps on the emails," she said without looking up. "I can prove the language is wrong. I know my own writing, but the data is buried in 300 pages of server logs. My legal team says it will take a week to audit. The board votes on Friday." "Show me." She looked up, wary. "You're not my counsel." "No, and I won't pretend to be, but I manage hotel access systems, vendor logs, incident timelines, and compliance records every day. If you authorize it, I can help sort the timeline and flag anomalies for your legal team to certify." Her gaze held mine for 3 seconds. Then she picked up a pen, wrote a single sentence on the top sheet, dated it, and signed beneath it. "I authorize Nathan Reed to assist with chronological sorting of the documents I provide. Legal review remains with Morgan Apex Counsel." She slid the paper across the low table. "Clean enough?" "Cleaner than most boardrooms." That almost made her smile. I removed my suit jacket, folded it over the chair opposite hers, and sat on the floor across the low table. She handed me the first stack. Our system formed without needing to name it. Claire sorted by sender and subject line. I sorted by server relay code, timestamp, and routing path. Anything suspicious went into a red folder. Anything verified went into blue. Anything requiring counsel went into a yellow folder with a sticky note. After the first hour, she stopped apologizing for the mess. After the second, she stopped watching my hands like I might use her information against her. After the third, she caught an anomaly I had missed. "Wait," she said, tapping a printout with her highlighter. "This phrase, I never use supply partner consolidation. I say vendor consolidation or supplier review. Julian used supply partner when he was trying to sound like me in board memos." "Julian is the former partner?" "Julian Cross," she said. "He wanted to sell our overseas procurement branch and strip the company for parts. I blocked him. The board forced him out last quarter, but he kept relationships with 2 directors. I turned the page until the relay code sat under the lamp. Then we have language pattern, motive, and access. We need origin. We'll find it." The coffee sat untouched until the ice cube melted completely. At midnight, Claire reached for it, drank, and made a face. "Cold coffee is punishment," she muttered. "You ordered coffee with ice. 1 ice cube is strategy, 4 hours is neglect." I stood, took the cup, and replaced it with a fresh one from the service pantry down the hall. When I came back, she had moved the crackers onto my side of the table. "You keep feeding me," she said, "so I'm returning fire. I accept this hostile cracker action." The laugh that escaped her was small and surprised. It did not solve anything. It just opened a window for 5 seconds. We worked until the city outside became a field of dark glass and scattered lights. Near 2 in the morning, I found the first real thread. A relay code that should have originated from Claire's corporate server had passed through a proxy tied to a competitor's vendor portal. The timestamp had been shifted by 7 minutes, just enough to make it appear as if Claire sent the email after a supplier strike became public. I placed the sheet in front of her. "This didn't come from you." Claire leaned forward, both hands flat on the floor beside the stack. "That's Julian's outside vendor. He used them during the divestiture fight. Then your counsel needs to subpoena the logs, but this gives them a direction." She stared at the line until her eyes shone, not tears, anger under glass. He made it look like I betrayed my own company. No, I said. He made a document. Documents can be tested. The white sheer scarf rested on the back of the chair near the window. The air conditioning moved at once, and the fabric lifted before falling still again. Claire followed my gaze. I hate that thing. The scarf? My assistant packed it because she said rooftops photograph better with movement. She rubbed one thumb along the edge of the red folder. I spent 12 years building a company, and by noon today, I was reduced to a woman on a terrace with fabric blowing behind her while people asked whether I was unstable. You're not unstable. I know. She picked up the next sheet. That is why I'm still reading. By Thursday morning, the pressure outside the hotel had hardened into a siege. A financial network requested a comment. 2 board members leaked that Claire was considering temporary leave, which she was not. A tabloid published a photo from the rooftop taken from an adjacent tower. The angle made her look idle, pampered, detached from the market panic Julian had created. The caption called it, CEO relaxes as suppliers burn. I stared at the headline from the front desk and felt my jaw set. Claire's phone rang through the secure line 10 minutes later. I answered from operations, confirmed her voice, then transferred the call. Before noon, my radio buzzed. Mr. Reed, we have a problem on 10. The voice belonged to Mara, my assistant manager. Mara did not use the word problem unless something had already become one. Location: North Service Corridor. Unauthorized male with camera claims he's delivering flowers. No floral delivery had been approved for 10. I moved before the sentence finished, taking the stairs instead of waiting for an elevator. Hotel corridors are designed to feel calm. They should not sound like a man arguing with housekeeping while a camera shutter clicks under a delivery bag. I reached the 10th floor landing as the photographer raised his lens toward Claire's hallway. Property security, I said, lower the camera. He turned, fake confusion already arranged across his face. I'm just trying to deliver. The florist uses the loading dock. Your visitor badge is for the lobby restaurant. Your camera is pointed at a guest corridor. Lower it. Mara appeared behind him with 2 security officers. She had the incident tablet open. Good. Documentation first, drama second. The photographer lowered the lens by half an inch. I did not reach for him. I did not raise my voice. I stepped into his sightline, making sure the hallway behind me showed nothing except a closed service door. You are being escorted off property under trespass protocol, I said. Your equipment bag will not be searched by us, but the incident report will include your badge scan, elevator footage, and corridor timestamp. If any image from this floor appears online, our legal department will know exactly where to begin. His expression shifted. Men who live on intimidation dislike paperwork. It lasts longer. Security escorted him into the service elevator. Mara stayed behind, face tight. Junior valet sold him the floor number, she said. I have the access log. Suspend the valet pending investigation. Preserve his shift records. Written statement from housekeeping within 20 minutes. No gossip on radios. Already started. That's why I keep you. Because I'm terrifyingly efficient? Because you saved me from becoming paperwork with shoes. She gave me the ghost of a smile, then moved. I knocked on Claire's door. She opened it with the red folder in one hand. Her face had lost color, but her chin was steady. They found me. An unauthorized photographer reached the North Service Corridor. He did not get a clear line into your suite. We have his badge scan, footage, and an incident report. I'm putting your hotel at risk. The hotel was at risk when the valet sold access to a guest floor. That is our breach to own. She stepped back from the threshold, then looked toward the open hallway. I should check out. Julian wins if your staff gets dragged into this. I moved aside, leaving the exit clear. You can leave if you choose, but are you safe in this room right now? She blinked at the open space I had left for her. Yes. Do you have certified evidence ready for counsel? Almost. Does leaving help certify it? No. Then my professional recommendation is that you stay until your own plan is complete. Not mine. Yours. Her fingers tightened around the red folder. Then she stepped back into the suite. "Come in for 5 minutes," she said. "Mara, too. I want the breach timeline included in my legal packet. If Julian bought a valet, that connects hotel access to the smear." I did not move until she finished the sentence. "You want us to help document the incident?" "Yes, I want every clean record we can legally use." "Then I'll bring Mara." That afternoon became the cleanest kind of war room, boring, precise, and devastating. Mara printed the elevator access logs. I pulled the hotel-side incident timeline from our security system. Claire matched the photographer's arrival to a blog post published 12 minutes later, hinting that she had gone underground. Her counsel joined by secure line and instructed us what the hotel could release, what had to remain internal, and what required subpoena. Claire did not sit behind us while we solved it. She stood at the table with a pen in her hand, marking connections, asking better questions than half the legal teams I had watched bill by the hour. "Here," she said, tapping the badge scan. "The reservation system never lists floor numbers on vendor passes. He had to get it from a person." Mara slid the valet shift roster beside the badge scan. He clocked out 7 minutes after the photographer arrived. I added the incident number to the top of the file. Motive, access, timestamp, consequence. Claire looked at the 3 stacks of paper and finally took the fresh coffee I had set beside her. She drank, paused, and looked into the cup. 1 ice cube. Strategy, not neglect. This time, the smile stayed for 2 full seconds. By Friday, the hotel had become very quiet in the way a theater becomes quiet before the curtain rises. Claire's legal team filed for an emergency injunction at dawn, attaching the server anomaly report, the language pattern memo, the competitor routing clue, and the hotel incident timeline with council-approved limits. The board still demanded a public statement before market open. They wanted calm. They wanted optics. What they were going to get was evidence. We arranged the press conference on the rooftop terrace, the same place where I had first seen her phone vibrating beside the white fabric in the breeze. The pool had been closed for the event. The press stood behind velvet ropes near the bar. Security controlled the elevator bank. Mara ran the guest list with the expression of a woman prepared to deny entry to a senator if he used the wrong confirmation code. Claire stood near the staging area in a tailored black suit with a white blouse buttoned cleanly beneath the jacket. A press badge hung slightly crooked from her lapel. She held her notes in one hand and the red folder in the other. Her thumbnail tapped the folder once, twice, then stopped when she saw me by the glass windbreak. I took 1 step forward and stopped. "You secure the perimeter. You don't crowd the guest." The cameras were waiting for her, not me. She crossed to me anyway. The rooftop breeze lifted the white sheer scarf tied to the side of the podium. Not on her body now, not decoration around her, just fabric marking where the wind was. It snapped once and settled. Claire looked down at the badge. The clasp had twisted in her pacing, leaving her name angled toward the floor. "Can you fix this badge?" she asked. "Yes." I clipped the badge back onto her blazer without touching her skin, then stepped aside. The small plastic rectangle straightened. Claire Morgan, CEO, not rumor, not headline, name, title, record. "You have the logs," I said. "You have the proof." She looked past me toward the press. "They're taking my company." "No," I said. There's a difference." Her hand closed around the red folder until the paper edge bent. Then she opened her fingers, smoothing it flat. "Right," she said. "Secure the perimeter. Don't crowd the guest." I almost smiled. That one works outside hotels, too. She walked to the podium. The first question hit before she finished setting down the folder. "Ms. Morgan, did you intentionally delay supplier payments to trigger a buyout?" Claire looked at the reporter, then at the cameras, then at the board members standing stiffly near the bar. "No." One word, clean enough to cut glass. She opened the folder and placed the certified receipts on the podium one by one. At 8:42 Tuesday morning, a fabricated email was circulated to 3 financial blogs. That email did not originate from my corporate server. It was routed through a proxy connected to a competitor vendor account previously used by Julian Cross during our divestiture dispute. The reporters stopped shouting and started writing. Claire continued. The timestamp on the screenshot was altered by 7 minutes to create the appearance that I responded after a supplier strike became public. My legal team has filed for an emergency injunction preserving the full server path, vendor records, and access logs. The board has received certified copies. A board member tried to interrupt. Claire, perhaps this level of detail should wait for... No, she said, turning toward him. The market was not asked to wait when my reputation was attacked. My employees were not asked to wait when their jobs were used as leverage. My suppliers were not asked to wait when a lie was designed to make them panic. So the truth will not wait either. Mara stood near the bar with the incident tablet under one arm. I saw her eyebrows lift by 1 millimeter. From Mara. That was applause. Claire lifted a second document. This hotel's incident report also confirms that an unauthorized photographer attempted to access my secure floor yesterday using internal information. That matter is being handled through proper legal channels. I will not speculate on who paid for it. I will state that the pattern is now documented. Another reporter called out, "Are you stepping down while this is investigated?" Claire looked directly into the central camera. No, I am remaining in place. I am requesting an independent review of Julian Cross's communications with board members and competitor vendors. I am also asking the board to suspend any emergency vote until the injunction hearing concludes. I built Morgan Apex to survive pressure without sacrificing integrity. Today, integrity looks like receipts. She tapped the folder once. It was not dramatic. It was worse for Julian than drama. It was orderly. By the time the press conference ended, 3 financial blogs had updated their headlines. The word alleged appeared where certainty had been. One board member left by the service elevator without speaking to anyone. Claire's general counsel called before we finished clearing the podium to say the judge had granted temporary preservation of records and paused the board's emergency vote until the injunction hearing. The rooftop emptied slowly. Cables were coiled. Water glasses were collected. The velvet ropes came down. The city kept shining as if nothing had happened. Claire stood by the glass windbreak, looking at the white sheer fabric tied to the podium. It moved in the breeze, caught once, then came loose from the knot. Before it could blow across the deck, she caught it in one hand. "Do you need that saved?" I asked. "No." She folded it twice and set it on the podium. "I just don't want it in the pool." Practical, exhausted, still thinking about the mess nobody else noticed. Her phone buzzed. She read the message and let out the first full breath I had heard from her all week. The board backed down. "Your counsel did good work." "You did too. I secured a perimeter." "You did not crowd the guest," she said, and the tired humor in her voice nearly undid me. I looked toward the elevator. "The service route is clear if you want privacy." She looked at the public terrace, the empty chairs, the skyline, the reporters leaving through the controlled corridor. "No, I think I'm done disappearing." That should have been the end of my involvement. An hour later, I sat in my ground floor office reviewing incident reports. The valet had been suspended pending investigation. The photographer had been served with a trespass notice. Legal had approved the limited hotel statement. Claire's name was not on the checkout manifest yet, but the sanctuary had done its job. The crisis had moved from hotel operations to court filings and board governance. I was closing the access log when my office door clicked open. Claire stood in the doorway with the scratched plastic keycard to the secure suite in her hand. Her blazer was still buttoned. Her press badge hung straight. The red folder was gone. "I need to extend my reservation," she said. I stood. "The immediate crisis is resolved. Ms. Morgan, you don't need to hide here anymore." "I know." She walked to my desk and placed the keycard on top of the printed security log. "I'm not hiding. I'm staying through the injunction hearing because my legal team needs a secure base and because your hotel has already documented the breach properly." "That is a professional reason." "It is." She did not look away. "And when the hearing is over?" I asked. "When the hearing is over," she said, I would like to have coffee in your lobby without an NDA, a side entrance, or a crisis plan. The line between hotelier and guest did not dissolve. It was acknowledged, respected, and left standing until it could be crossed cleanly. Then we wait until the hearing is over, I said. Her fingers rested on the back of the chair opposite my desk. You always step back. Yes. Why? Because people in crisis sometimes reach for the closest steady thing. I refuse to mistake that for permission. She absorbed that quietly. Outside my office, the lobby phones rang. Somewhere near the concierge desk, a child laughed too loudly and was shushed by a parent. Normal life, continuing without permission. Claire picked up the keycard again. Then keep the room under my company account until the hearing. I can do that. And after that, she said, her voice softening without weakening, I'll ask again without the crisis standing between us. I nodded once. I'll answer then. The injunction hearing lasted 16 days. Julian's vendor records were preserved. The competitor proxy was confirmed. 2 board members resigned before the full investigation could name them in public. Claire did not disappear. She gave statements when needed, refused bait when offered, and sent her staff a company-wide memo that included no dramatic language, just 3 practical things. Payroll was secure, supplier contracts remained active, and Morgan Apex would not be sold under pressure. She stayed at the Aurelia Grand during the hearing, but not as a ghost. She used the lobby conference room for council meetings. She walked through the front entrance. She thanked housekeeping by name. Once, I saw her helping Mara move a display of white orchids away from a drafty door because the petals kept shedding into the marble entry. Mara reported this to me with deep professional seriousness. Your CEO guest has rearranged florals. Is the lobby structurally compromised? Emotionally, perhaps. File an incident report. I already titled it Orchid Hostility. Claire heard about it from one of the desk agents and laughed in the lobby, bright and unguarded. I was across the room checking an arrival list, and for the first time all week, I let myself look for more than half a second. Then I went back to work. On the 17th day, the injunction expanded. Julian Cross was barred from contacting Morgan Apex vendors. The emergency vote was permanently withdrawn, and the board announced an independent governance review. Claire's company was not healed. Companies never healed that cleanly, but the bleeding had stopped, and the people who had tried to profit from the wound now had their names attached to the knife. At 4:30 that afternoon, Claire checked out of the secure suite. At 5, she walked through the front doors of the Aurelia Grand like any other guest, except she carried 2 coffees. I was near the concierge desk, reviewing weekend arrivals with Mara. The lobby was full, executives checking in, tourists taking pictures of the chandelier, a family arguing gently over dinner reservations, no side entrance, no NDA movement, no security corridor. Claire crossed the marble floor directly. Mara saw her first incoming professional reason. I closed the tablet. Thank you, Mara. I will be at the desk pretending not to watch. Claire stopped in front of me and held out one of the coffees. Black, 1 ice cube. Condensation had gathered around the lid. I waited until the hearing was over, she said. Yes, I am no longer your guest in crisis. I checked out 12 minutes ago. I saw the manifest. And I'm asking now. She placed the scratched keycard in my hand. Would you have coffee with me somewhere that doesn't require a perimeter? The lobby continued around us. Phones rang. Suitcases rolled over marble. Someone near the front doors complained that their car was late. Normal sound, public space, no hidden bargain, no rescue debt, no crisis making the answer for either of us. I looked at the keycard, then at the coffee, then at Claire. Yes, I said, but I should warn you, I have opinions about coffee temperature. Her smile reached her eyes. 1 ice cube is strategy. 4 hours is neglect. You remembered? I keep useful data. No, she said, still holding out the coffee. You keep people safe until they remember they can stand in public again. I took the cup. 3 months later. The rooftop terrace opened for the spring charity breakfast, and the white sheer fabric returned to the deck, tied to the podium in long, clean panels that moved with the morning breeze. Claire had insisted on using the same terrace for Morgan Apex's supplier recovery announcement, not because she needed the hotel, but because she wanted to replace the old image with a true one. I stood near the glass windbreak with an earpiece in place and no need to use it. The press list was clean. The board review had concluded. Julian was facing civil action. The vendors were back under contract. The employees Claire had protected were scattered among the breakfast tables, eating pastries and pretending not to stare at their CEO. Claire stepped to the podium in a navy suit and placed a single page in front of her. No red folder this time. Before she began, she looked across the terrace and found me exactly where I had stood the first day. The breeze lifted the white fabric behind her, but this time it did not look like a warning flag. It looked like something released. She did not need me to straighten her badge. She did it herself, pressed the clasp flat, and smiled before turning to the microphones. That was the moment I trusted the structure. Not because the perimeter was perfect. Perimeters never are. Doors fail, elevators stick, headlines lie, and people with expensive shoes still try to sneak cameras into service corridors. But Claire stood in the open by choice. I stood back by choice. Between us was not distance. It was respect with room to breathe. After the breakfast, she found me by the service corridor, holding 2 coffees and the scratched hotel keycard. She had punched a small hole in one corner and threaded it onto a brass ring with her office keys. "You kept that?" I asked. "It reminds me of the difference between hiding and choosing a door." I looked at the white fabric moving across the terrace, then at the keycard resting against her palm. "You secure the perimeter," I said. She finished it for me. "You don't crowd the guest." Then she handed me the coffee with 1 ice cube, took my free hand in the middle of the hallway, and walked with me toward the lobby where everyone could see. The end.